This is Authentic Parenting, a podcast about growing ourselves while raising our children. I'm a psychologist, educator, and parent coach. And on this podcast, I explore how you can practice radical self-care, connect to your authentic self, and raise emotionally healthy children. Let's break the cycle of generational trauma for a more peaceful, kind, and compassionate world. What you're about to hear is the edited version of our live event that took place on October 5th in Princeton, New Jersey. The topic was the art of communication in relationships, navigating needs, feelings, and deeper connection, featuring special guest Dr. Yvette Erasmus. We included a few activities throughout the event, but for easy listening, much of it has been edited out. However, we kept one activity in the recording that translates well. You might even follow along at home. Unfortunately, there are moments in the recording where audience voices are not as audible. However, I believe you'll be able to decipher their questions and comments based on the guests' responses. Of course, we can't fully convey the warmth, vibrancy, energy, and ambience of the live event through this recording. Additionally, a surprise performance I had at the beginning has been removed, as some experiences must be felt in person. I did write a song and I performed it live for the first time in front of this crowd. There is nothing quite like attending these events live. We don't just host events, we create unforgettable experiences. This was our second event of the year. And why do I host these events? The answer is simple. I am passionate about bringing people together. I deeply value relationships, and one of my strengths lies in building communities. We intentionally keep these events offline. We don't broadcast them live or offer hybrid versions because I want attendees to engage fully in the experience, connecting with like-minded individuals, sharing meals, and creating authentic moments and memories together. Some things are best experienced in person. In today's world of social media, rising loneliness, and the influence of AI, fostering genuine connections is more important than ever. I hope to meet you at one of our future events. To stay updated on the podcast, our events, and everything else we offer, please sign up for my weekly newsletter on my website. Please enjoy, and thank you for listening. Well, welcome everyone to the art of communication in relationships. I am so delighted that you're here today. I see some familiar faces, returning folks. Raise your hands if you came to the last event. That's what I'm talking about. Welcome back. And I see some new faces. So we have truly built an amazing little community around this event, around this podcast. And I'm really grateful. And please, let's give a round of applause to yourselves for coming out tonight. I want to invite to the stage my dear listener, an awesome human being, a fantastic person. She's the integral part of the Authentic Parenting community. She's the first one who buys the ticket to any event before I even announce. And she's here with her mom and her daughter. This is a family event. So give a round of applause for Jen Singh. Jen, I want you to open this evening, and most importantly, I give you the honor of introducing our special guest.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for being here. So we're excited to have you, whether you're here for a night out or to enjoy the community of the podcast or to listen to our special guests. So thank you. I hope you enjoy it as much as I do. Now in its 9th year, Anna's podcast has built a global community of listeners from over 50 countries. And Anna doesn't need an introduction, but anybody who might have been dragged here might not know that she's the creator and host of the Authentic Parenting podcast. And she has over 25 years of experience in psychology and education. She helps parents raise emotionally healthy children through her podcast. I first met Anna early in the pandemic through the support calls that she held for her podcast listeners. Spent many wonderful hours talking with her and other fellow listeners, so I really enjoyed that. We're also honored to have Dr. Yvette Erasmus here with us tonight. Dr. Erasmus is a psychologist, teacher, and consultant who specializes in human development and relationship building. Yvette's work is shaped by her diverse cultural background and her experiences growing up in apartheid-era South Africa. She combines insights from various practices, including nonviolent communication and trauma-informed psychology, to help people develop healthier relationships with themselves and others. I first learned of Yvette's work when she appeared on Anna's podcast, but I've learned since then that she worked in this field for a long time before I met her. Yvette supports people in overcoming self-limiting patterns and finding more meaningful connections in their lives. A round of applause, please.
Communication in relationships. What makes it an art and what makes it hard? Let's continue the rapping theme, the rhyming.
Wow, okay. What makes it an art is the amount of attunement and constant refining that you need to do in present moment, here and now time. You're constantly reading what's happening inside of you. You're tuning into the cues coming up in your own being. Your feelings are changing. Your needs are changing. Your thoughts are going. Your judgments are coming. There's a lot going on the inside. And then you're tuning in to this other human being and you're making interpretations and you're sensing feeling and energy and tone and then you've got to weave this. And there is no single magic bullet that is going to work for everybody all the time. So it's absolutely an art form. It's a way of dancing with each other. And it requires a tremendous amount of presence and attunement and empathy. And that's both what makes it an art and I think what makes it hard.
Yeah. The same things that make it an art make it hard.
Well, the other thing that makes it hard, I'm just going to add to that, is I don't believe that we are taught how to communicate well. I think that what makes it hard is the amount of unlearning that we do need to do if we're going to communicate well. Because our default under stress communication techniques are so defensive and so self-protective and so aggressive or so much shutdown that there's a lot of inner work to do to begin unlearning the defensiveness so that we're available for connection. That makes it really hard.
Yes, I agree. I'm wondering if you can speak about our cultural programming, what gets in the way of that just a little bit. You know, communication is at the heart of every relationship, right? But we use ineffective strategies often, like complaining, demanding, blaming, to communicate what we need. And of course, our needs don't get met like that.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I think some of you know, maybe not all of you know, that so much of my work is drawn from the work of Dr. Marshall Rosenberg, who developed nonviolent communication. And one of the things that he would say is that we are so enculturated into the game of who's right. And so that game of who is right is the frame through which we end up listening and responding to one another. And in the game of who's right, whatever is happening, we're always asking one central question. And that question, unconscious until today, is what's wrong? Like, think about it. If your child falls over and starts crying or just starts crying, one of the first things that we think about is what's wrong? We're so trained to look at ourselves and others through this lens of wrongness And when we come at things from a wrongness lens, we're set up to begin thinking about who's to blame, right? Because if something is wrong, then somebody must have done something wrong. And we're instantly set up to start looking for who's to blame for being bad. And once we can figure out who's to blame for being bad, then we get on, at least in a domination culture, which most of us live in, then we get on with the business of punishing them into goodness. This is the old frame that so many of us have been enculturated in. And so this is some of the programming, that the way that we make good people is by making them suffer more, make them more afraid, make them suffer more, make them feel worse. And that's the old domination system theory of how we make good people. And of course, we know this doesn't work. But so many of us have that in our defensive system, in our default system, because it's what so many of us grew up with. And so it's our default experience that we tend to pass on. Yeah.
And is it possible to change that fully?
That depends on what we mean. Here's my take on that. I don't believe, at least in the limited lifetime we have, let's say 80 to 100 years, I don't know that we're going to get rid of it because it's so entrenched in our survival system. Like, part of being defensive, I say this a lot in the work that I do online, is your defensiveness is not a bad thing. You get to be defensive. It's very, very healthy to be able to protect yourself and to get distance from something that is harmful to you. So we don't really want to vilify our defensiveness, but what we can do is become conscious. What we can do is become awake and mindful in every moment so that we're not living from our fear state all the time. We're in a chronic fear state that is like, what is wrong? Is it you? Is it me? If it's you, then I'm going to try and change you. If it's me, I'm going to try and change me. What's wrong with you? I'm going to fix you. What's wrong with me? I should fix me. I mean, this is how most of us live in a fear state. And I would say that isn't something that neurologically we're going to escape. But I do believe that we can wake up to it. I do believe that we can become conscious of it. And as we become aware of it, of course, awareness is the prerequisite for choice. Once we're aware, we become choiceful. Once we're choiceful, we can become co-creative. And that's when we can begin developing new habits and interrupting these cycles and finding a new path forward. But it is, at least my take on it at this point in human evolution, is we're at this pivoting point where many of us are beginning to wake up. And it's still a very, very intentional practice for a lot of us. And does it get easier with time? Yes. But it's an intentional practice because it's a muscle that we're literally growing. What do you think about that?
Yeah, and hopefully we can speak to our children differently. And, the next generation will have less unlearning to do, we hope, right? But I can see all of us are unintentionally perpetuating the same old patterns because it's so hard not to blame. You're so trained to find whose fault is that? Is someone has to be blamed. And maybe religion plays a part too, right? Religious upbringing, and I don't want to go down that route. But what I would like to ask you is to maybe let's read through some of the communication challenges that people...
Would you like to read them or would you like me to read them?
We can split.
Okay, here.
But I want you to answer them.
Okay. Well, we're going to have a challenge because I do not have my glasses and so I cannot read them.
I do have my glasses, but some of the handwriting may not be easy. So this one says, asking for help.
What's the challenge with asking for help? What a lovely thing to do. I would love to hear more about what's challenging about asking for help. Is it the conditioning that you're supposed to do everything by yourself and for yourself, and that there's something bad and wrong about being vulnerable or inviting other people to make your life more wonderful? Here's what I would encourage you to do if you have a hard time asking for help. Learn how to enjoy receiving. Learn how to enjoy receiving. And think about this. This is something that Marshall Rosenberg used to say that I really, really love. Think about the last time that you did something for somebody else that they were not expecting. When is the last time that you just thought, oh, so-and-so would really love this, I'm just going to do it for them? Can you think of a time that you've contributed to someone else's well-being and they didn't expect it? And how that feels? What is that like? Are you feeling burdened? No.
We have the mic for the audience, you guys. If you want to participate, you can do that. If anybody wants to jump in, you can jump in like that too.
It's a deeply inspiring and energizing act. As mammals, we are wired in the same way we have these fear responses, we are wired for social connection and to get a dopamine hit out of doing things for one another. And when you become a really good receiver, you make a beautiful posture for other people to come in and get their hit for wanting to contribute to your well-being. You make yourself available for that. You make yourself available for them to get this wonderful thing that they're looking for, which is a sense of meaning and purpose and contribution. Think about how painful it is when you do something nice to someone and then it's painful for the person receiving. And think about how lovely it is when you do something for someone and you can see the joy and the relief or the relaxation in their entire body. So remember that when you ask someone to help you, you are giving them a gift. You're giving them a gift, especially when you're completely open to a yes or a no. You're not giving them a gift when you ask them to help you with something and you're attached to an outcome, because that's not really asking for help. That's subtly demanding and manipulating help. And this is one of the things that makes it unenjoyable, right? And when people feel like if there's a price for saying no. So make sure there's no price for saying no. Be equally open to a yes and a no, and you'll suddenly find yourself asking for help is enjoyable for both people. And I'm happy to take follow-up questions on any of this. Yeah.
So here's a good one. Being too reactive, and another one, speaking calmly without judgment and anger when triggered by someone's behavior. Those are similar ones, so I read them together.
So the first piece is tracking your own reactivity. I wouldn't think of anybody as being too reactive. Let's get rid of the TOO and get into the moment and notice there's reactivity here right now. I'm tracking myself. I am actually quite reactive right now. And then instead of labeling it as reactive, what I want to do is settle into my body and begin naming the sensations. Actually tune into your body and feel into the sensations and name the feelings. What's arising in me right now? The very first step is awareness work and self-regulation work. Self-acceptance work involves not resisting your own reactivity. If you have reactivity coming up, there is a beautiful opportunity for healing and awareness and processing. And we can learn how to work with ourselves gently in those moments, where we create some room for ourselves so that we can settle into what is wanting to come up right now. Now, if you don't know how to do that on your own, go find a really good therapist and they'll coach you into it and they'll help you do that, because this is a skill that we can learn how to do. And sometimes we can't teach it to ourselves. We do need someone helping us with it and holding a container for us in the early stages. But we eventually learn, oh, I'm super reactive. The adrenaline is running. The cortisol is running. I feel trembly. I'm beginning to get a panicky feeling in my body. I can start tracking these things and getting a little bit of distance from them where I can begin observing the reactivity inside of me. And I want to be very kind to myself in those moments. There's pain here. There's fear. There's memory. And I want to slow it down and create a space for the memory, the emotion, the fear. It might be a boundary. It might be anger. It might be healing work from an invasion that I'm still trying to do and reclaim a part of myself. That reactivity has a wisdom if we learn how to work with it. And by the way, once you start doing that for yourself, you'll be able to do that for your children. You'll be able to tune in when your children are emotionally dysregulated, and you'll be able to hold that space for them and teach them how to presence and move through it. And then we always ask ourselves, what am I needing? What is the deep need that is unmet right now that I need to be tending to? And as we learn to do that, we stop having these panic, flight, fight, freeze reactions on the inside, because now you've developed somebody who's there, you, for you. And if you can't do that by yourself, because many of us cannot, you go find a good therapist or a good healer or a good friend, somebody who's walked that journey, and they will be here for you in the interim and scaffold that. And then you'll begin internalizing it, and then you'll have that resource available to you. So that was the first piece about reactivity. Don't resist it. Don't judge it. It's a wisdom. Work with it. Create space for it. There's something really important coming up. You have an opportunity to heal and release. So work with yourself, not against yourself. Work with yourself.
Don't tell your partner or your kids, you made me feel like that, right? We often blame others for our internal feelings.
Yeah, exactly.
Here is another one. I shut down, my throat closes, I don't want to speak. Or finding the word to express what I mean.
Oh, that's a big one. Mm-hmm. So when I'm noticing my throat closing or my body going into some kind of a shutdown, there's usually a fear. I'm usually needing safety. I might be needing empathy. I might be needing reassurance. I might be needing support. I've got to figure out what I'm needing. But again, this is the art of working with yourself. Oh, some part of me does not want to speak right now. I'm going to assume there's something wise about this. I'm going to assume maybe I need some space. Maybe I need some time. Maybe I want a little bit more awareness and internal resourcefulness online before I try to do anything else. The most important thing is you do not judge yourself for the reaction you're having. You get curious about the reaction you're having. You work with the reaction you're having. You assume that this is the best reaction I could be having right now for some reason, and you want to understand it. You want to get clarity about it. And when I don't have the words available, I give myself lots of time and space. And sometimes it helps to get a word list, like a feelings list or a needs list, and then to begin scanning. Because very often I can recognize it when I can't generate it. Have you ever tried to learn a new language? You know how when you're learning a new language, you can often understand what other people are saying before you can think up those words yourself to say them? So when we develop an emotional literacy or a needs literacy or an emotionally intelligent relational, those words, if your family of origin didn't speak those words a lot, you're learning them, just like a new language. And it can help to have the stimulus coming in instead of feeling like you need to generate it from the inside out.
I am just giving you guys a printout of the universal human needs, the list of needs, and some feelings. So you can take that home and you can use it tonight as well.
Yeah, especially if you don't know what word it is. Then you start going down and one of them is going to jump out at you. You're going to be like, what am I feeling? Oh, that's it right there.
Yeah. Not mad, sad, happy,
bad,
glad, right? We need to expand our feelings vocabulary. Here is one about feelings. When feelings are hurt and I think there is no care.
Yeah, I'm feeling really hurt and I'm longing for more care. So then the next question, that's great awareness. The next question is, how do I get more care? What would help me right now get care? Remember, there's nothing wrong. I'm feeling hurt. I would love more care. Then you get your attention onto, great. How do I get more care? How do I get more empathy? How do I get my need met? The only thing you ever need to do is figure out how to get your needs met, how to get your children's needs met, how to get your partner's needs met, how to get people's needs met. That's the only conversation that I think is worth having. What needs are not being met, and what could we do to have our needs be better met? That is going to take care of the vast majority of the communication problems you have. Not what is wrong with you, not as why aren't you in therapy, not
what is wrong with me.
Oh, what is wrong with me? Right? That happens a lot. Yeah. It's what am I needing? What are you needing? What would work for us both? What is the next step forward? What would help? Not what is wrong, what would help?
Here is one, getting in touch with my emotions and sharing how I feel and what I need. Mm-hmm. You are in the right place,
yeah,
whoever wrote this. Yes. being judgmental, critical before understanding the good intention of the person or hearing the person. I think we all struggle with this.
Yeah, our judgments are a lovely way of distancing ourselves from life. You know, we judge ourselves and other people in order to get far away from ourselves and other people.
I think it says confronting staff who are underperforming. Yes. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, something company.
Mm-hmm. So you're looking for a way of giving people feedback, basically, I think, is what that's getting at.
Yeah, confronting the staff. Is confronting a good word?
Well, if you're confronting them, I predict you're going to get a lot of reactivity and defensiveness and resistance. Or you're going to get collapse and shame.
So what could we use instead of confronting?
Yeah. Having a conversation, seeking to understand what's going on. I mean, if you're working with somebody and first of all, you're going to figure out what behaviors are happening or not happening, you know, what they need to begin doing and what they need to stop doing, it's going to be about the behavior. And then you're going to start with curiosity about what needs of theirs are being met by doing or not doing this thing. And then you're going to reveal what needs of yours are not being met by said situation. And you're going to paint a beautiful vision of how it's going to work better. And you're going to ask the person what's getting in the way of that happening and how you can help. So that's without having a lot more details, that's the general roadmap. You come from a place of sharing power, not power over. You come from a place of mutuality and having a conversation. The two of you have a dilemma. I have a dilemma. Here's what I think is happening. This is what I think should be happening or what I'd love to see happening. And I want to understand what's making it difficult. What am I missing? What information do I not have? Help me understand. Is it a prioritization thing? I'm going to come assuming the person's good intentions. And then I'm going to let them tell me all of the reasons, all of the struggles, all of the challenges. And I'm going to make sure to reflect it back in a way that they are saying, yes, you get it. Yes, that's exactly right. That's exactly why it's impossible for me to do blah, blah, blah. And then I'm going to say, well, we have a dilemma because part of the job description is XYZ. And it looks like for these reasons, this is impossible to do. What can we do about it? Because I have a dilemma and I need your help fixing it. And then you see how far that conversation gets you. Absolutely. You always want to come from a place of sharing power and you're putting the relationship above the task. So the thing that is important is maintaining trust in the relationship. And the strategy we end up with on the back end or the thing that does or doesn't happen on the back end is secondary to how the two of us are feeling about one another through the process of conversation. Do you feel safe? Reptilian brain. You're always meeting needs for safety first. Do people feel safe with you? And if you have a position of power over them, they intrinsically will not feel, the default will not be safety. If you have more power than another person, they will be afraid of you as a default. And so when you have a position of power, it is on you. You have a greater responsibility to make yourself safe and to attend to all of the safety things. If it's a work situation, this is not, you're not getting a write-up, you're not getting fired, this is not a really big deal. I really just want to have a conversation. You're making it as safe as you can, or truth-telling. So safety is number one. The second one is trust. Mammalian limbic brain, right? So we first have to get the amygdala settled down, and then we've got to work with the limbic brain. And do you care about me? Can I trust you? Do you care about my needs as much as you care about your own needs? That's the next thing that humans are unconsciously figuring out all the time. So in the process of conversation and how we do it, we want to find a way of being with one another that addresses those two needs first before we can ever get to any problem solving. Otherwise, all we have is coercion and control, and compliance and rebellion, submission and rebellion. So if we want to get out of those dynamics, we have to attend to relational conditions.
Powerful stuff. I pretend everything is fine because I worry I will make the other person uncomfortable instead of being honest.
So relax when other people are uncomfortable. Learn how to enjoy it when other people are anxious. Learn how to enjoy it when other people are angry. Learn how to relax and enjoy it when somebody else is feeling uncomfortable. And the way that you can learn how to do that is by cultivating an empathic heart. Because when you learn how to simply hold space for human emotions and don't feel a desire, knee-jerk reaction that something is wrong, or that you did something wrong, or that you are the cause of the emotions, all of those things are going to make it exceedingly difficult for you to enjoy human emotion when you start feeling responsible for them. So your practice is learning how to care about how people feel. You're not getting care offline, but you're getting responsibility offline. So when I care about your discomfort, and I care about your anger, and I'm caring about you, but I'm not taking responsibility for it, it's going to make it much easier for me to say the things that need to be said. And the pain that can come from a truth is not the same as the pain that comes from a deception or a dishonesty. I might not like the truth, but the truth is going to be healing in some way. It is going to be clarifying. It is going to build trust. I may not like the truth, but the truth is not going to be corrosive to me. It's just going to be, I don't like it. But the pain that comes from dishonesty, from deception, from lying, from manipulation, from covert control games, that's corrosive to the human spirit. It's a different kind of pain. Let's not do that one. Be willing to stand with the pain of a truth.
That's so good. That's so good. This one is, my challenge is not conveying what I really need. And I want to do the needs activity after this so that we can all be on the same page. And then when you teach the NVC model, we can all speak the same language. Do you want to address this in a few words? My challenge is not conveying what I really need. I would say, does this person know what their needs are even, right?
Yeah. I mean, my challenge is conveying what I really need. So develop a needs literacy so that you can get really connected to what it is that you're really needing. Like at the need level, we're talking about things like, I'm needing support, I'm needing empathy, I'm needing choice, I'm needing freedom, I'm needing reassurance, I'm needing play, I'm needing movement. But that's a very abstract level. Like this is the one where we're all sort of connected. When I know my needs, so for example, I might have a need for support. I also have preferences. And my preferred way of receiving support might be, I want you to walk across the room and give me a hug. I don't want to talk anymore. I don't want to use words. I find your words completely ridiculous and activating and triggering. But when you hug me, it really helps. So that's on the words. And I need you to walk over here and give me a hug. That's what I'm needing. That's the thing. That is such a gift to you when I can tell you that. It is a huge gift to you when I know what it is that I'm needing, and I can give you an idea of how I would like that delivered. Especially when you can then decide yes or no. You know, then your job on the other side of that is, I am feeling completely shut down and I don't think I can even walk across the room to give you a hug right now, but can I just send you some heart emojis via text? This is the best I can do. Can we figure out how we negotiate each of our truths, right? So these are the conditions you want. You want to know the need. What is the actual life energy need that is up for you? And you also want to be able to give other people information about the strategies and the preferences and the ways that you enjoy receiving that. And then you need to be open to other people saying, that works for me, that doesn't work for me. Because it's beautiful when there's a match and it does work for the other person. And believe me, you do not want people doing things for you that they don't want to do. Because you're both going to pay a very heavy price for that. So you
like resentment?
Like so much resentment, so much resentment. And resentment is always a clue to you that you are saying yes to things you want to say no to. The moment you start feeling resentful, it's because you have some unexpressed no's. You keep saying yes. So use that as a sort of wake-up call. Where am I agreeing to things that I want to be saying no to? And why am I not giving myself permission to say the no? Sometimes that gets to the level of truth-telling. So
you're saying there is no room in a relationship for me to expect for my partner to just know what I need and give it to me when I need it the most in the right way that I want?
Mm-hmm. You know, that is a very appropriate thing to expect in the first 18 months of life. Yeah. There is a developmental stage where that is very, very appropriate. But by the time we get to high school and beyond, I don't think so.
What I'm hearing, Yvette, is this communication things requires a lot of self-understanding and knowledge, a lot of vulnerability, and being okay with hearing a no if they are not ready to meet our need, and not throwing a tantrum or threatening with divorce.
Yeah. You know, when you put it that way, it sounds like a lot of work. And what I would say to that is, if you think of it like this, like it's actually just beginning to speak what is actually true the whole time. Because all of these other things that we do don't work. They create so much more disconnection, defensiveness, arguments, cycles of violence, cycles of aggression, cycles of all of the things that feel natural to us in the moment. So many of those things kick up so much additional nonsense in our lives that it's a little bit more about surrendering to what is real and true in the moment and just saying that, and then watching what happens. It sounds like a lot of work, but in some ways, it's so much easier.
It's easier when you master the art of speaking from your needs and communicating. It makes the dynamic very easy. But when you have a need for emotional intimacy and your partner comes home late, and the only way you know how to communicate is, you're late again, you never value our family, you stay at work purposefully longer, you don't care about me. If that's the strategy that you use to meet that longing deep down that you have,
then I wish for you a partner who says, oh, I hear that you're really missing me and you've been longing for me to come home.
But who talks like that?
Well, anybody who's listening to what somebody means instead of the 13-year-old way of saying it.
Yes. No, the world would be a better place if we all were to able to communicate like that.
Because when we say that, when we come with all these complaints, all we're trying to say is, I miss you. I need reassurance that I'm important to you. Do I matter to you? Do you even want to be with me without the even, right? And I am longing for some reassurance and connection with you. And when we say it that way, we make it more likely that we're actually going to get our need met. And when we say it in a way that is laced with judgment and complaint and victiminess or entitlement, we get in our own way. We make it almost impossible for the other person to understand what to give us.
Mm-hmm.
It's so tragic.
It is. Could you explain what the need is? I think many of us sort of know what needs are, but not really. We don't speak the needs language. I am wondering if you can, what do you mean? Yes, by the word. What is a need? How do I know? What kinds of needs do I have?
So I like Marshall Rosenberg's definition of a universal human need. I think he defines it as the divine life energy moving through you. It is the source of life moving through you with an intelligence and a wisdom about what is needed in order for your life to be fulfilled, for you to reach your potential. I also like the very more secular psychological definition of it's your intrinsic motivation. That's basically what it is. It's intrinsic motivators inside of you. It is the thing that, the way that you know if you're talking about a need or a strategy, a universal human need is something that all human beings, through time, at any age, any culture, any identity factor, any individual differences, what are the things that are at the essence that human beings are motivated by in their lives? A drive for meaning and purpose. Safety, we can talk about if we do sort of a neuroscience thing, we can talk about safety, security, predictability, reptilian brain needs, connectedness, safety, trust, self-respect, self-acceptance, self-connection, mammalian brain needs, neocortex needs, discovery, exploration, problem-solving, analysis, learning, growth, prefrontal cortex needs, hope, meaning, purpose, imagination, creativity, choicefulness, detachment, being able to see something from multiple perspectives. So these are things that when your needs are really well met, your body will relax. You get into a state of relaxed alertness. Mammals need play, by the way. Play is a fundamental human need. The fact that our schools are not organized around play as the primary way of learning is a complete tragedy in the modern age. That is a fundamental need. That is actually how mammals learn, is through play. And the more we take play away, the less learning we're going to get. If we want a world that is enjoyable to live in, we would be well advised to create structures that are attuned to what humans need and that are interested in meeting human needs. The more we meet one another's needs, the more generous we are, the kinder we are, the happier we are, the more creative we are, the more tolerance for difference and ability to work with wider and wider differences we have, the more self-regulation we have. And so this shift of getting out of the who's right and what does it mean to be a good, obedient factory worker in a system that makes some people a lot of money, or whatever system you want to look at, whatever domination system, if we could really begin focusing on meeting people's needs and valuing our own needs, taking responsibility for our own needs and building our lives to be in alignment with our needs, we would reduce so much violence on the planet.
I'm wondering if you guys, you have the paper, right? Maybe we can have the audience mic, Jen, and let's see who wants to look at the list and say what needs resonate with you, what needs you have. Maybe perhaps you made a discovery today. You didn't know you had that need, but it jumps out at you. So these are the universal human needs. Mm-hmm. Do you want to say what needs you value most? Let's say a few.
If I'm going like deep in myself, so being seen, believe it or not, that's what I need. That's what I saw first. Maybe something else too, but this is one actually, and what else? Appreciation. So I'm doing everything to get that.
Great. And I can team up with David. We can start a band. And be playful.
We so want our goodness reflected back to us. And we so want our strength reflected back to us. If you just made that a practice when you leave today, to see other people's goodness and see other people's strength and reflect that back to them over and over and over again, watch how far that gets you. Yeah.
Can you use an example to model that?
I would need sort of an example. I'll give you an example, yeah. When I saw you getting up today and doing a rap in front of all of these people, I felt incredibly, incredibly inspired. It met my needs for courage, and it encouraged me. It met my needs for play. It met my needs for unpredictability and novelty, and inadvertently gave me a lot of permission to just do kind of crazy things too. And I started wondering for myself, what do I not give myself permission to stretch a little bit? And I just see the courage that it takes to do something like that.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It means a lot. It lands very nicely.
Yeah.
I have to say. Okay, let's do an activity since everybody has been sitting for a long time. And Jen, may I ask you for your help again? We have black cards in that tray and colorful gel pens. So everybody will get the card. That's your inspiration card. And the top one is mine. Maybe I can show how I did it. So what you're going to do, since you already have the list of needs in front of you and you heard this conversation already, you're going to pair up with someone, choose your partner wisely, or if you want to be playful, choose someone that is not your partner or wife or friend, somebody new, so you can open up. You're going to talk about what is an important need that you have, one important need that you have. You're going to use this black card as an inspiration card. You're going to take this home. So don't do it just, do it nicely so you can remember. Mine is this card, and in the middle I have written connection. That's a big need for me. And what are some ways that you currently get that need met? And what are some ways that you can get that need met? Maybe expand. So mine has, for example, and I decorate it a little bit. You can be playful and artsy and creative and decorate your card as much as you want or as little as you want. What's the purpose of this exercise, Yvette?
Yeah, let me tell you a little bit. When I was a single parent, and this is an activity actually that I did with my daughter growing up. We had these needs from these lists on little pieces of paper, and we had them in a bowl. And every morning at breakfast, we would each sort of pull a need for the day. And I would have like beauty, and she would have like exploration. And then the task was to spend the day noticing how that need is met. Okay, so we're getting out of the scarcity, everything is wrong mindset. We're looking at when the needs are met, not unmet. And then at dinner time every day, our check-in was sharing with one another all of the ways in which our need of the day was met. So my need for beauty was really met when I looked at the trees changing color, and my need for exploration was met when, and it is a way of resourcing yourself, energizing yourself, building a needs literacy, and allowing the experience of the needs that are actually met in your life all the time to energize you and resource you, so that you can see how much is actually going well all the time. And so it can help if you're wanting to switch into a needs consciousness, to very deliberately develop this language. So pick a need that you would like in this next week to be really well met. Pick one that maybe you're like, maybe it's to be seen, and you're like, I feel like that is not met enough. This week, I am going to notice all of the ways in which my need to be seen is really well met. And then what you can put on the card right now is, here are the ways I remember it being well met. Here are the ways I like it being well met. This is what I wish people would do more of. So it's kind of like putting it all on the card. And then I'd really love you to try it for a week and see what happens. Just do an experiment. Find out what happens with that need.
Great. Yes, thank you. So how was this exercise for you? Did you discover something new about yourself, about your needs? How do you feel after it? What did you discuss with a partner or with your table mate? Feedback?
I feel that it has been surging more and more is the needs were accepted. And I was telling Irene that I feel social media is playing an aspect of that. Let's take, for example, if I post a photo on Instagram, I always have the need that I want to be accepted. I want to be liked by my friends, by my partner, by my community and society as a whole. So I just want to have what is your take on the social media and that? And is it a real need that we actually need? Is it just an implication and it's being just imposed by social media level?
Yeah. No, what a beautiful question. The need you have is for self-acceptance. So acceptance from another person is not really a need that we have. We do have a need for safety, for belonging, for connectedness. These, I could say, are needs. But by acceptance, what we often mean in the context that you're talking about is I want other people to have a positive judgment of me, and I want other people to think good things about me, and I want other people to not judge me in negative ways. that is still buying into the strategies of a domination system, that my well-being is dependent upon your good judgment. This is one of the myths of it's actually one of the characteristics of a domination system. In a domination system, your well-being is dependent on the approval of an authority figure. That's how we learn it. And the authority figure tells you, young child, who you are supposed to be. And you need to shape yourself in the image of what I project onto you. And then you will be safe. When you can be what I need you to be, you will be safe. So this is why we develop this. We are trained from an early age to abandon our authenticity in the name of getting good judgments from authority figures, because it's a survival mechanism when we're children. And now we see it playing out in social media, and it gets internalized in a way that you are oppressing yourself. You are that domination system that was outside of you has now been internalized. Nobody else even needs to judge you. Your insecurity from posting on social media is coming from your imagination of what other people might be thinking. It has nothing to do with what they're actually thinking. So the way we free ourselves from that is an inside job. It is from self-acceptance. It is from the courage to be authentic. It's the courage to not be liked. It's the courage for other people to think bad things about you and to know you will be okay. You need someone to tell you you're fine the way you are, so that you can learn that you are fine the way you are, but it may not be your mother. We all have a longing for it to be our parents. And some of us have parents who will give that to us, and some of us do not have parents who are able to give that to us. Some of us have parents who are very invested in their image of who they wish we were, and that gets in the way of them being able to see and love who we are. And that is a deeply painful experience that we can grieve. But it doesn't mean that we won't find people in our lives who will love and accept us for who we are. We want to find those people so that we can be that person for ourselves as well. If I feel this way and see this way, I see how workaholic you are. And, Jen here sees it, and, here Anna sees it, and my mother sees it, and your brother sees it. It's a way of, in a domination system relationship, stacking the odds in my favor to prove to you that you're the problem. And it's very painful. It's very painful because when you start bringing in reinforcements, you're not creating conditions that allow for softening, opening, exploring, connecting. People feel like it's not a safe place to bring my truth or my longing or my sadness or my loneliness. And when we come with our ideas of what's wrong in the relationship, this is not what you're saying, but I'm just going to give you what some people might be saying. You don't say thank you. You need to say thank you. And I want you to start saying thank you every day for all the things I do, right? And even if the other person said, okay, fine. Thank you for waking up in the morning. Thank you for brushing your teeth. Thank you for putting your, it does not actually get us where we want to get. And it sounds like what you're looking for is the spirit of the thank you, and that spirit is an opening of a heart. And so the things that we need in our communication to open a heart is not the same thing as to get our way. That's a different communication. We need to bring our feelings. I'm lonely. I'm sad. I feel helpless. I feel some despair. I feel like we did a good job in the business of raising the children, but here we are at the end of it, and I feel lonely. And do you feel lonely? And how did we get here? I would love to feel valued. Do you value me? Tell me 3 things you value. Have I hurt you? How have I hurt you? What do I not know? How can I repair it? Can I tell you a way that you once hurt me? I would like to repair it. Not, look how bad you are. You should feel bad. But more, let's create room in our relationship to have a new conversation so that our hearts can open to each other again. Egocentric, narcissistic, manipulative people are a symptom of a domination system. If you get those people out of a domination system, on my blog, I have a whole blog on what is a domination system, if anybody needs a primer on that. When you remove those people out of the system and you allow them to be full human beings, a lot of that behavior, unless we're talking about like seriously wounded people, will begin to shift. So it is adaptive in a dog-eat-dog world where a few people get resources and everybody else just gets used. It is very adaptive in that system to have a very strong ego, to see yourself as better than other people, to win at everything, and to not give a whatever about how anybody else feels. Because the game you're trying to win is, I need to win at this game and I have to be better at everybody else. It breeds narcissism. There is no space in that system to be successful in the rules of that system. Empathy is useless. It's actually going to hold you back if you are buying into that system. So one thing I just want to remind us is, before we see it as a entrenched personality trait, we want to understand the conditions that are creating those behaviors. It doesn't mean that everybody is going to be different in a different environment, but I would invite you to assume that everybody would until proven otherwise, because the amount of people who would not are very, very few. And the amount of people who would be different is the vast majority. So now back to your question. What do we do with them? We lead with what we want. Think of it like this. When I'm in an egocentric, narcissistic, grandiose, superior state, it's a survival skill that I have learned. If you want to bring out something different in me, stop competing with me. Stop debating with me. Stop telling me that I have to earn everything that I need for my well-being. Create conditions in our relationship where you are generous with me, where you're inviting my opinion about things, where you're sharing yours, where I start to have a completely different relational experience. You'll see a lot of the stuff that we call narcissism, superiority, grandiosity, you'll see it melt because it's not needed. When I'm cared for, when I have the experience of you caring about my needs, I don't have to be the one always fighting for my needs. You're going to have my back. You're also caring about my needs. Suddenly, it creates room in me to care about your needs. Wait a minute, well, what about your needs? But if I'm the only one who's ever looking after my needs, I'm going to see you as only looking after your needs. But what most people are talking about is not that. What most people are talking about in their daily lives is a narcissistic defense. Everybody has narcissistic defenses. We have become very casual in our culture to see somebody using a narcissistic defense and then deciding that they are a narcissist. It doesn't actually help us in our relationships to do that. So I would recommend thinking of it as a narcissistic defense, which is really just a fight response, which is actually, it could actually just be very good self-esteem because I know that I'm worth fighting for. And I'm not going to let people run over me. And I'm going to push back when you try to invade my boundaries. And somebody else can look at that and say, well, you're so narcissistic. Well, that's healthy narcissism. You get to defend yourself. You get to, push back. Now, if we're talking about way out on the continuum, like way out in the personality disorder, that's when we have no empathy for other people. We cannot hold somebody else's needs inside of ourselves. We experience empathy as patronizing and condescending. If you try to get to my feelings or use feeling language, it's like I have an allergy. I can't stand it. Get that away from me. I have no interest in connection. I have interest in power. I want to be in control and I want to be powerful. And in order to get a diagnosis of a personality disorder, that has to be basically with all people, in all circumstances, across time. It has to be pervasive. Now, most people can be pretty narcissistic with this person and then really, really lovely with these people. That's not narcissistic personality disorder. Does that make sense? So I would see your mother-in-law very, very clearly first. She's not going to do what I ask her to do. There's nothing to change in my communication. She's not going to do what I ask her to do. She doesn't want to. She's going to do what she wants to do. She's going to do what she wants to do. It doesn't make any difference how nicely I cajole her, explain it to her. For whatever reasons, bring her in next time, we'll talk to her. For whatever reasons, the truth of the matter is she gives you a continual no. Now you ask yourself, what am I going to do knowing that it's always a no? So the choices that you have to do with degree of access at that point and degree of engagement. And if this is a person you can have some conversation with, Sounds like not, but just on the rare chance that maybe she has a good day, I would say, I have a dilemma. I've noticed, I asked for this is what happened. Do you know what I'm talking about? So the very first step there is you've got to have it be very neutral and very behavioral. Not, you never listen to me. You always do whatever you want. You think you know better than I do. You know, it doesn't matter what I ask for. You don't care about, like, none of that. I asked for strawberries to be washed, and I am aware that strawberries were not washed on Wednesday. You know what I'm talking about? Oh, yes. Strawberries don't need to be washed. I mean, I don't know. You are so perfectionistic, and you must have OCD, you know, like, right? You know, I don't want to enable all of your, you know, OCD stuff around strawberries. I mean, children need germs, or whatever she would say, right? Okay. So then you're going to say, well, here's my dilemma. It seems like when you know better than I do, that you're going to do what you want to do over what I'm asking for. Is that true? Is that true? Is there anything that I could say or do that could change that dynamic? In the absence of that dynamic changing, here's what I'm going to do. Yeah, I'm not going to ask you to be different. I can see that this is how it is. So this is what it means for me. And then you figure out what that means for you, what you're going to do about it. But you keep your attention on the one person you can control, which is you, and you stop making yourself or your child available for this dynamic to repeat. And you can say it very clearly. I'm really sad about it. I'd like her to have access to you. I'd love the support. But one of my lines in the sand is that when I ask for something for my children, that is honored. And that's not something you're able to do. And so I need to redirect in this way. No wrongness, no judgment, no punishment. Boundaries. Her husband's going to have to learn not to triangulate. He's in a tricky position, but he's got some growing up work to do, I think. I don't know. How is that for your husband? Yeah, he's going to need to say to both you and his mom, that's between the two of you, and ideally he's going to back you up. So there's a lot there. You're welcome. I'm sorry. You know, the humans need help, right? The humans need help. And if only we didn't have to share the planet with so many of those kind. And then just remember, we are those kind to all of those people. So I love remembering that there are people in therapy because of me. So, you know, keeps me humble. There are people in my family who talk to their therapist about me. So, you know.
I'm wondering if you can briefly introduce the NVC model.
Totally.
Which you were talking about already, right? We were talking about feelings, needs, keeping neutrality, observations. I would love for you to explain in a more packaged way. And perhaps we can have folks, two people, come forward and maybe practice a new way of communicating after they learned the model. We can choose some example. We have couples here. Maybe they can volunteer like a real issue. I mean, after wrapping, I think, you know, you guys can be brave too.
I think so. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Okay, so a brief introduction to the principles of nonviolent communication. Number one, before you open your mouth, you've got to check your intention. The very first thing you check is intention. Am I wanting to connect with this person? Or do I want to control this person? If I want to connect with the person, I'm more likely to speak the language of the heart. If I want to control or change this person, I'm more likely to speak domination language, okay? The language of fear and control and power. If my intention is to control, I'm going to give you a very quick primer on domination because you'll understand the NVC model when you have something to contrast it to. Domination system, I want to control you and I want to control me and I want to control my children. And I think through where is my attention? It's on the question, what is wrong? And there's only two answers to this question. Either there's something wrong with you or there's something wrong with me. If I think there's something wrong with you, I am going to feel angry and self-righteous and justified in being violent and aggressive towards you, whether it's physically or interpersonally, just verbally. And by aggressive and violent, I mean I'm going to tell you all of my judgments, of all of my diagnoses and all of my demands and everything that is wrong with you in hopes, the theory is if I explain to you how happy you are, you will say thank you and change. Right? This is the theory.
This is the theory we expect from our children.
Yes.
We expect from our partners.
Yes. Let me just explain to you the level of misery you're bringing to me and what is wrong with you. And you're supposed to say, oh, thank God you explained that to me. I had no idea. Thank you so much. I will do better. This is so helpful. Okay? So that doesn't work. And then the other thing is, if I think there's something wrong with me, I love those people. Those are my favorite people because those are the people who show up for therapy because they do think there's something wrong with them and they're motivated to change. But we see increases in depression and anxiety and low self-esteem and learned helplessness, in rumination and perfectionism. I mean, there's all kinds of suffering that gets kicked up on that end, and you're miserable and you're suffering. And then there's 4 places that we place our attention in our language that substantiate this consciousness that we get stuck in. 1, we speak in evaluations. And this is what you were talking about with all of this external validation that you were talking about. I'm going to tell you what I think of you. But not only am I going to tell you what I think of you, it's usually going to be what I don't like about you and what is wrong with you, because I do see you as an object that needs to be fixed in the image of what will better meet my needs. Like, this is how human relationships work in a domination system, right? So I evaluate you. I also have a bias to staying in my head. So most of what I'm sharing with you is my thinking. I'm willing to tell you what I think about things, what I think about you, what I think you should do, what I think you shouldn't do, what I think other people are thinking about you. I am very addicted to staying in the thinking world because I have been taught in a domination system that it is much better, it's superior to be logical and to be rational and to be cut off from your feelings and not to know what you're needing because we want to be in the world of thinking. And then the third thing, so we have evaluation, thinking. The third thing is strategies. I have so many ideas for you on how you could be different. I have so many strategies about everything that you should be doing. My favorite one right now is I would like my 21-year-old child to finish a 4-year degree. This is a strategy that I am very attached to and that I keep trying to impose upon her, and she is very much resisting, okay? Because the fourth one is when we bring our strategies with a lot of demand energy. And the demand energy is you have to. You have to get a 4-year degree or else you are going to die under a bridge, okay? And so when you come with this kind of forcefulness, you put the other person in the position of being able to either rebel or submit. If they rebel, you've got a power struggle. If they submit, you're paying for it later. Okay? Everybody loses.
Paying later
and
too.
They're paying.
Everybody
loses. Everybody loses. So that is the anatomy of domination system relationships. It is judgments and power struggles. And it is righteous anger and depression. And it is disconnection, and it is suffering. And then we think when that isn't working, the best thing to do is to do it louder. Okay?
With more force.
With more force. Because if I just do more of this louder and with more force, you will see how much it matters and I will break through your defenses, which is what I'm trying to do. Okay? So that is domination system relationships.
That's not what we're preaching today.
No. So you've got to unlearn it.
I think we have enough training in that.
On the other side, that's the control side. This is controlling relationships. We become increasingly disconnected. If your intention is to connect, if your intention is to establish a connection between you and another person, you've got to drop down into your heart, which is what in domination systems we're actually taught to get out of. It's vulnerable. We don't want to be there. Yeah. We've got to get back into our feelings. So connection language, instead of asking what is wrong with me and you, connection language is always focused on what will help, what is needed right now, what will help move this forward, what are you needing, what am I needing, what's going to make this better, what is going to make us move forward together. Marshall Rosenberg would frame it up as, how can we make life more wonderful? How can we make life more wonderful? It's a nicer game than who's right, okay? It's a nicer game. We don't have a lot of muscles yet in this game because instead of evaluating, instead of sharing with everybody your interpretation, You learn to speak in neutral observation. That's practice number 1. Behavior. When you walk through the door and you walk straight to the bedroom without looking at me, that is a neutral observation. When you ignore me every time you come home, that is an evaluation, right? So we start describing the behavior instead of making it about a personality, like about narcissism. It's very difficult for me to go to someone and say, this is just your narcissism. And then they don't go, oh, yes, I need to come down from grandiosity. Thank you for the reminder. Like, they don't do that, right? But when I say, well, when we're having dinner and you took the last cookie and you didn't ask anybody else. Oh, I didn't know I was supposed to do. Now we have something we can talk about, right? It's not about their personality. It's about their behavior. So we learn how to see things neutrally. It doesn't mean our interpretations aren't correct or useful. We just don't start with them anymore, and they don't lead the way. Second thing, instead of all this thinking, logic, rational, detached, disconnected, it's like playing a chess game in that world. It's always just who's going to win. We bring our feeling states back online. What are you feeling? What is alive for you? What is happening in your heart? And then we use the feelings to walk our way down to the needs. Why do we have a feeling? Because we're crazy? No. Your feeling tells you about the state of your needs. It is the thermometer that tells you about your well-being. If you feel lonely, you need connection. If you feel tired, you need rest. If you feel hungry, you need sustenance. If you feel bored, you need play. If you feel stuck, you need movement. It's really simple. But we have not trained those neural pathways, and they're not available to us in the heat of anything anymore, because what we've learned to do is fall asleep to our feelings and our needs and think about it instead. And the thinking is not helping us, right? So we need to know what it is that we're feeling, because it tells us about what we're needing. And then we need to have permission for your needs not to be a burden on anyone. Your needs are actually intelligent life force energy about the relationships that you are in and about your relationship with yourself. You begin seeing the needs arising and the feelings arising as wisdom. And then instead of making demands, you must, you should, you have to, you start making invitations and requests. Knowing that this happened, I'm feeling this, I'm needing this, would you be willing to, and you throw out a possible solution that the other person can say yes or no to. And then if they say no, then you say, great, would you be willing to give me an idea that would work for you? And you end up in a power with relationship where both of you, you're tuning into their feelings and needs, your feelings and needs. Here's my idea. What's your idea? You don't like that idea. What idea do you have? It is co-creative. It is collaborative. It is weaving. And it is allowing life energy in that moment to find you. When you're practicing nonviolent communication, you don't know how the conversation is going to end. When you're practicing domination conversations, you've had the conversation in your head and with your therapist and all of your friends, and you know exactly how it's going to end and how it should end, okay? So you let go of that. When you're doing nonviolent communication, you are surfing a wave. And you're constantly attuning what's happening, and you're caring about what's in people's hearts. And you're caring about what's in your heart. And that is more important data than your long laundry list of things that they should or shouldn't have done, and their long laundry list of things that you should or shouldn't have done. We just get the conversation off there for a while until we have safety and trust back. Because once I really believe that you care about me and that I matter to you, once I trust that, we can then do the problem solving, and it's not a war game anymore. It's not to blame and shame. It's just to help each other live into a different vision that we have of what we're trying to bring into being. And so that's the essence of nonviolent communication. You basically practice observations, feelings, needs, and requests. It's very, very simple. It's exceedingly difficult to do. I would invite you to do it in community with other people and to immerse yourself in relationships where people are speaking this way. Because like learning any language, if you go and do an immersion in the country of origin, you will absorb it and it won't feel so much work. And if you're in one country and you're just going through the language on your own all the time, it's much harder. So I hope that was useful.
So whatever you said today looks like you know it all. But you also mentioned that you were a single parent. So I'm trying to judge you there. What happened?
Are you feeling really curious because you want some clarity about all of the contradictory information you're hearing?
No, what I'm wondering is, if you know it all, did you really practice it in your own relationship, or the person that was the other extreme, or what really happened? So
it seems like, because what I'm showing you is the feeling and needs guessing, right? So it seems like you're wondering, you're curious about whether, I'm going to use some of your language at first, right? You're wondering whether I think that I know everything. Is that true?
we felt that you know everything.
Oh, I see. So
I would have imagined you to have a perfect relationship.
oh, I see. So are you feeling inspired because your needs for hope are being met?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I am. That was a good one.
Okay, good. Let's do another judgment. Try another one. It works best if you just judge me. Really, it's not that hard. Usually people are very good at this. This is a very kind group.
Something that I've heard a lot and that I'm sure other people in this room have heard is you're so sensitive as a criticism.
Yeah, so judge me that way. Say that to me.
You are so sensitive.
So are you feeling a little bit wary right now because you are wanting some space to speak more freely?
I don't really think you're too sensitive.
No, I know that.
So I'm trying to
feel your way into when you are accusing somebody else of being too sensitive. What is happening in you? What is happening in you? The person who's saying you're too sensitive.
I'm feeling uncomfortable because it's like you're feeling and knowing something that I don't know or that I'm not in tune with.
Okay, so are you feeling uncomfortable because you're really wanting more shared reality and connection between us?
Maybe, but your sadness is making me feel really uncomfortable.
Yeah, you're feeling really uncomfortable because you're wanting to trust that I'm responsible for my feelings and that you're not going to get blamed for them.
Yeah, that lands. Yeah.
So do you see how we kind of just keep going until we get a yes from the other person? All we're doing is we're waiting for enough language that the other person feels like, oh, yes, you're seeing and knowing me. And that person, you see, what you were doing is I could see you checking in with yourself. Is that landing? And so what you're supporting them in doing, even if your guesses are wrong, you're helping that person get more internally connected, right? And they don't have to come up with the language. You're offering. And all they need to do is a yes or a no, or and already you're a little bit more aware of you, and I'm a little bit more attuned to what is actually happening in you, which in the early stages is revealed to me through an evaluation of me. But don't take the bait. Do not take the bait of evaluation for me. The way I want to hold that is, wow, yeah, I have a very wide range of emotions, a very healthy and wide range of emotions that I very healthfully express. And this healthy part of me is very challenging to my partner because they have some stuff about that, and I want to care about that. And I want to help them see what's happening for them without making myself wrong. And also, maybe the way that I'm holding my feelings has some forcefulness to it or has some volatility to it. And maybe that's an awakening for me to realize maybe I don't have to bring so much force. Maybe I can actually have my feelings heard in a way that is going to be connecting with this other person. But again, you're tuning to two nervous systems. Some people are going to be like, bring it on. I love volatility. Other people are going to be like, you need to speak like this. Otherwise, I cannot handle your feelings. You can tell me you're angry in this tone of voice. So, you just work with people where their regulation is at.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Is that enough? Is the model clear? Now everyone is hopeful.
Yes.
You sold hope. Inspired. What other feelings are in the room?
Send them to me.
Overwhelmed?
So hold it like this, one thought. Yeah, I feel a little overwhelmed and I have a deep longing for understanding. And begin your conversations right there. I have a longing for understanding. Do you have the same longing for understanding? Could we be on this journey together? I'm beginning to see a different way of doing things. I find it inspiring. Would you like to know more or not? I would really love a learning and growth partner in this. You know, what would you need to know to find out if you're interested or not? Do it with each other. Don't, you know, what I see so many people doing is they go off and learn something and then they want to take it back and teach. Try not to do that.
Employing the domination model yet again, right? Yeah. I am enlightened.
That's right.
I know what I need. Let me tell you how you can meet my needs.
My dear partner, I learned about your feelings and needs. Let me teach you how to speak to me differently. That's right. I would like to teach you what you should have learned tonight.
Oh, God.
They won't respond well. Just be it. The more you can be it, people will get inspired and interested. Only teach people when they've asked you to teach them. I promise.
Anyone else? Questions, feedback, comments, anything you want to share before we close this conversation?
I would love to hear what has been useful to people today.
Yeah.
People would be willing to just share some takeaways or some learnings that you have found enlightening. I'd love to know what those are.
Yeah, so let's do our regular practice. Usually how we end this live podcast is we pass the microphone to everyone, and please use my microphone so that it gets recorded. And you just say a sentence. I take an emotion, a feeling, a memory, an image, something from this evening, from her teaching. What is it that you are walking away with? So I would kindly ask you to come.
And can people pause if they don't want to?
Yes, we can give them a choice. But how would I know who wants to share?
Yeah, you could just pass it on if you don't want to.
Christy, do you want to share anything? Leticia?
I think the word that was coming to my mind as I was trying to look at the paper and remember what people said is that I hope that everyone's leaving here inspired. I think a lot of the things that you spoke about are things that I think I try to do, and I'm a psychotherapist myself, so I think a lot of the communication style and things like that. And when Anna said, like, who speaks like that? And I feel like I often do. And I feel like, oh, I'm that really annoying, boring friend that the person was, and I said, oh, I see you and I see what, and I hope that, like you said, more people can, because oftentimes friends would be like, even like mad at me. And I said, oh, I see you. And they would immediately like open up and be like, oh, and like people don't tend to speak to each other like that. And I am fearful of being the annoying therapist friend sometimes, because sometimes people are like, no, that's not what I want today. And that's fine. And you, like you said, you can switch gears and you can bring something else. But I hope people will leave here inspired because and try a new way of communicating. Yeah.
Thank you.
Just in general, I think the way you describe this dominance, what do you say?
The domination system.
Domination system. And it's the carrot and the stick and power and control. And it really is the way I think most of us have been raised. And I have little kids, and it is a daily struggle to break that mentality. And what struck me is when you said, well, what other way is there? Because I think most of us have been, that's all you know. So anyway, there was just, it struck me. I'll go on your website now and research further.
And I was thinking about the exercise that you mentioned about the bowl in the morning and pulling out a need, because that's what I most want to remember from this evening, is that fluency that comes when it's part of our everyday way of looking at the world. The behavior lens is one way to look at the world, the rewards and the consequences, and it's incomplete. There's just so much more. It's not that it's wrong. People do behave for rewards and they do avoid things to avoid consequences, but it's just not enough of a story. And if we can get more fluent, if I can get more fluent in the way that I think about feelings and needs, and start with those observations and let them be neutral so that the feelings and needs can come. Right now, it's such a deliberate effort. Like I almost literally have to sit with pen and paper to write down what I'm observing, what feelings is that bringing up. And it's completely draining to imagine walking through the world that way. But it only gets easier with practice and with fluency. So I'm looking forward to the day when it's a little easier than it is now. So thank you.
It does get fluent. It becomes internalized, and it doesn't always take so much conscious effort.
I feel hopeful because there is a better way. I just have to practice it.
The back?
Yes.
Polly, this is to piggyback on hopefulness. There's actually some sadness that I feel because I think of if I would have known this way in the past or if people in my life knew this way. So there's a lot of mourning, actually.
I think what you mentioned about rewards and punishment, I think Anna mentioned long time back when kids go to school, right? They get sticker for doing something very ordinary. And she was like, what is the big deal? You're supposed to do it. So I think schools are kind of teaching that. And that's the way parents are also treating the kids more in this country than others. But today, I think I've got a new language. And I think I felt that I'm getting a little emotional here. But if I had known this earlier, it would have been a different life.
Isn't that true?
It's so true. Yeah, I feel that way too.
Well, you are a hope merchant on top of everything else. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, that's the end of our evening. And I really feel grateful that you accepted my invitation and came all the way from Minneapolis. And what a fantastic treat. What a beautiful evening. A memorable experience. So let's give a warm round of applause to this beautiful human being, Yvette Erasmus. Thank you, thank you, thank you.